welcome to Season 2 of the Most Wanted Podcast. I'm your host, Nahom Bokala, and nothing is safe from discussion over here. Before we start off, let me give a quick shout out to those listening in on Anchor, Radio Public, Overcast, Breaker, Pocket Cast, as well as Google Podcast. I also want to give a big shout out to those listening in through Spotify as well. If you're listening through If you're listening through Apple Podcasts, make sure to give a 5-star rating and review as well. If you're listening in on YouTube through the BrarHive channel, make sure to like and comment on the video as well as subscribe to the channel while you're at it. You can stay up to date with the podcast on Instagram at Most Wanted Podcast as well as Twitter at Most Wanted Pod. All right, fuck you, you script. Oh my goodness, that was bad. Oh my goodness, that was that was hard to get through. Wow, am I rusty? Jesus Christ. Anyways, so this is season 2. This is what I like to call the Dark King Saga. Don't even think about why I call it the Dark King Saga. It's like think of the Dark King Saga, or think of the name Dark King Saga as like the anime arc for this entire season. It means nothing. It's just cool as hell. Trust me. So today I kind of want to make it a more personal episode. With me, I got my boy Trey. Say what's up, bro.
How's it going, bro?
I've just been chilling. I mean, it's shit. At the time of recording, it's 10:52 at night. So we back at it again with these late night streams. You already know streams. What the fuck? Do I look like a Twitch user? Jesus Christ. You know what I meant.
That, or?
No, shut up. Fucking useless. I'm talking about myself, by the way.
Yeah, you drink that water. You shut the fuck up.
Oh, really? Say that. Okay, cool. But today I kind of want to make it a more personal episode. As you guys can tell from the title of the episode, I've been meaning to talk about this for like the longest, but I never really had a chance. And now I'm like, hey, I have this platform. Shit, I might as well. This episode is kind of going to be focused on, regret and like, the loss of someone personal in your life. There's no real focus outside of that. There's no grand narrative. It's literally just me and my boy here just, venting, it's going to be a real shit episode. So if y'all are in your feels, I'm going to let you know now. So this is going to be for Twitter as well or whatever. I don't know, but this is new for me. It's trigger warning. For those who don't want to listen to anything about death, hospitalization, real life emotions about those type of issues, genuinely those type of things, it's going to be one of those episodes, right? So I'm going to have to warn you now. So be prepared for those type of things. If you're still here, we rock with you. If you're not, if you would like to tune out, I get it. Don't even worry about it. I'll catch you in the next episode. So I might as well start off by saying that this episode is going to be focused around my grandma, and then Trey is here going to talk about, his own personal experiences with this. First off, I want to say rest in peace to Atete. Love you always. She passed away September 16th, I think. The day flew by. I genuinely cannot remember what day she passed, but it was definitely late September because those in past weeks or so, that was nothing but a blur. And so I kind of just want to go ahead and get the ball rolling. But Trey, why don't you want to start talking about anything or?
I lost my brother. It was May 21st of 2019.
Jesus fuck! It's been 2 years.
It's been 2 years, man. I know.
Fuck. Man, I'm still sorry for your loss, man. That.
No, it's okay, man. Really. His name was Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
He was 16 years old. He just turned 16. His birthday is May 20th.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the day after. like, do you want me to talk about how it happened, or like what the like?
Whatever you feel comfortable with, man. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I've told the story enough times. I think I'm comfortable saying it. That May time was right around like the spring break, I guess, for like Catholic school or whatnot. I think it's around that. Oh no, it was the May long weekend, like Victoria Day, like around then. I think that's when we were trying to go. Like, you know that it's like there's like a 5-day weekend sometime in May. Anyways,
right.
My family wanted to go to Mexico. We wanted to get away for a week. And it kind of just like happened that his birthday coincided with that. So, like part of it was we were going to celebrate his birthday. So we go to Mexico on the 19th and fly there, take a taxi, whatever, to the resort. And the resort's like unbelievable. Like we were like seeing like posters for it along the walls of the airport as we're leaving. So it was like this insane resort hotel. Never stayed anywhere like that before. It was like just gorgeous. Like it's so beautiful. We get there and we check in, and like our resort room there was like a pool on the balcony. It was like a little like
on the
wet
balcony?
pool. It's like supposed to be like a wading pool. It's like for like when it's really hot out, it's like cold water and you just like step into like pull yourself off. But it's crazy. Like this,
that's
like
some
this,
outlandish type thing. What the fuck?
It was insane. Yeah, like it was so great. Got in and like just like kind of hung out, like walked around the resort a bit because it was massive. And then next day was Ethan's birthday, so like, we were like celebrating. He had his first drink. It was like his 16th birthday. He had like a frozen margarita. You're in Mexico. I don't know what else you drink. And he's so skinny. Like he's starting to get a little taller, but he's like still pretty short.
Right.
Didn't weigh anything, and so he like had like half a margarita, and he was already like whatever his version of drunk was. It was very cute. He was so silly. And it was just like, I don't know. Like I feel like I was probably the same when I drank or got drunk for the first time. It was just like cute, like watching it happen, but like from the eyes of someone who's actually like been there before. So you're like,
right.
yeah, we get it. That was just a really good day. Like it was about as great a birthday as he probably could have hoped for. Like we're in Mexico on his birthday, celebrating the family. Everything was good then. And then May 21st. The first memory I have of that day was him coming over like 6 a.m. and he's just in his underwear and he tells me that I'm snoring too loud. He's just like, shut up. you can sleep, because I was tired and I snore a lot when I'm exhausted. So it was funny. It's the first memory I have. We got up kind of late because not in a rush when you're on vacation. My parents had like some massage booked. So like they were gonna go off by themselves, and I have two younger siblings. So Ethan was the one that passed away. He was 16 at the time. My siblings would have been, 10 and 5.
Skylar was 5. Oh,
that would have been 5. Yeah. It was 2 years ago. So they we took them to like a daycare, like whatever, like a hotel daycare. It was like this massive space. Like they were gonna have a ton of fun there, and like we like just dropped them off because like we wanted to like hang out, just the two of us kind of, and also like there's not a whole lot you can do watching that many kids. So we just dropped them off, and we went to like go get some food, and there's like a bunch of different restaurants around the resorts. We're kind of like walking and trying to find a place, and everywhere we were finding was either like closed or like really, really expensive, and we were trying to like spend a lot of money just for lunch. So we ended up at this little like poolside restaurant, and like memory of that is always so like vivid to me because I'm addicted to my phone, but like he was so way more addicted to his than mine. Like, he was like glued to it. And it was so funny like that. Like, we like ordered food, like we both ordered drinks. Not alcohol for him, obviously, because he's only 16 at the restaurant. But
Right.
but like when neither of us were on our phones, and it was just so like it was too, like, I feel like even at the time I was noticing that there was like something about it. It's just like, this is like nice. Like, we're actually both like fully like focused on each other, talking about soccer and like transfers and all that stuff. And it was nice because we're actually like paying attention to each other, like face to face, and not just like, well, sort of half paying attention while we're on our phones. And then eventually my parents showed up along with my siblings. Everyone wanted to go swim in the pool, so we all like, everyone like put their swim trunks on. We all went swimming, and we're playing in the pool. I was playing with all my siblings, and I was like sort of like throwing Ethan over my shoulder, like you like horse playing in the water, and you just like pick him up and like throw him over your shoulder.
Right.
I did it a few times, and then there was just like one point he came up and he was like kind of holding his chest funny. He was like saying that it hurt, but it was like, it was weird. Like, he was like holding his chest. He's also like talking about his back hurting. It was just like weird. So I was like, okay, like just like go like take a break or something. Like, maybe go sit off to the side. I'll stay with Jaden and Skylar. Then, like, you know, maybe if you feel better. And I go up and play with them for a bit, and like we go to a different part of the pool, and as I go, I pass by Ethan, and he's like sitting. He's like, there were like these like, so like the pool was pretty big, and then in the pool they had these like rings that were sort of like benches. They're like level with the water, so it was like a place you could sit on, like in the middle of the pool. And he was sitting on that, and he's like rubbing his chest. And I went over after, he's okay. He's like, yeah, he's just got like he's just feeling kind of weird. So it's like, okay, maybe just like go like off to the side of the pool, like go like lie down or something. And then like my siblings go back the other way. It's like I go away from where he is in the pool, and I'm playing with my two other siblings, and then I hear a scream, and like immediately I know it's my mother's scream because I've heard her scream before. And I turn around, and Ethan is lying on like one of those poolside chairs, like the lounge chairs. And he's not breathing, and it kind of seemed like he was sort of struggling to be breathing. Obviously, everyone's freaking out. My dad, I'm pretty sure, started trying to do CPR right away. People are screaming and then getting attention of like lifeguards who are over by the beach, and like they run over, and then they like push my parents aside, and they start doing it. And like we call the ambulance right away, but we're in the middle of a massive resort. Like, it's not easy for an ambulance to even get there. So like it's probably like 15 minutes by the time it gets there. And all this time they're still doing compressions and whatnot, like trying to get him to breathe. And it must have been just like my mind filling in these gaps, because it's what like your mind always fills in these gaps. And at the time, like, I would have sworn he was like, his chest was still moving, and like he was still like breathing really shallow, but he was gone by the time someone found him. And like we didn't know that, and so we were like trying to like resuscitate him, bring him back as possible, all the way at the hotel, waiting for the ambulance to get there. The ambulance people take him. They're doing it all the way into the ambulance. They drive there. My dad goes with them. My siblings and my mom are driven there by like the hotel, like gets the taxi or whatever for us. We head to the hospital, and we're all sitting there waiting. And I don't know, time doesn't mean anything when shit like that's happening. So I have no idea how long we were there for. Yeah. Probably over an hour. And then they called just my mom in, and I like, as much as I'm trying to tell myself like it's okay, like there's something to figure out, like I knew he was gone. There was like this slight glimmer of like, for some reason maybe they're just calling my mom in because he was okay. And then she goes around the corner. She says like, we're in the waiting area of this hospital. It's not a big hospital, and there's like sliding doors with down a hallway that you go down. And the doctor came out, my mom to go with him. She goes down, and then you don't hear anything for a bit. And I'm assuming she turns the corner and she's there, and she sees she screams, and we all knew what that scream meant. So me, Jaden, and Skylar all sort of collapsed on the ground, and we just start crying. I mean, we were crying obviously, but we just really started crying.
Yeah.
And I want to say there was 15 minutes of that, and then the first thing I remember calling was my work. I just told them that I wasn't going to be able to come in for a while because my brother had died. And I don't know, it was I think when situations like this happen, I felt like someone was going to have to be the person to make calls and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of everything shut off, and I called my work, and I remember I was pretty steady. It wasn't I wasn't sniveling or anything like that. I just kind of very calmly said, I'm not going to be able to come into work for a while. My brother just died, and my manager kind of sputtered an apology, but she didn't really know what to say. So I hung up and I called my uncles and stuff, and eventually more people started getting in contact with more people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you remember at some point finding out that it had happened, right? So,
fuck, man, I still remember. I'm never gonna forget the day. I think what happened was I was shopping with my mom, where Market Mall is.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so my mom was just in the Bay, and my mom loves taking her sweet time shopping, and I'm like, I bet I'll just stay in the car. She said, okay, sure, just make sure you don't leave the car on because either you're gonna waste gas or the battery. I'm like, sure, no, whatever. And it was raining that day. I'm never gonna forget that detail. And I was just chilling on my phone, and I remember you posted, I think either on Snap or Instagram.
I think I put something on both of them. Mm-hmm. Just a short little message, right? Just saying what happened.
And I remember seeing that. And my first thought was, oh, this has to be a joke or something. But then in my mind, I'm like, this doesn't sound like Trey. Trey would never joke about something like this. Yeah. And then immediately, I remember you told me beforehand that Ethan did have preliminary heart issues from beforehand. So yeah, that's the.
And I'll get into that after. So yeah.
No worries. So I mean, I remember thinking about that, and then I put two and two together. And I remember you were posting on Snap, and you're like, yo, whoever thinks that I'm joking around is a fucking idiot. I'm like, yeah, he's being dead ass. And I knew you were in Mexico, but I was like, fuck it, I have to call. So I tried calling you regular phone. Obviously that didn't work because international shit. But then I tried FaceTime audio. That didn't work. And I'm like, I don't think he wants to hear from. At that point I was crying. I'm pretty sure I was crying. I was trying to call repeatedly, and then it came to a point where I was like, I don't think Trey needs to hear me right now because this was the day of, and I'm like, I'm sure Trey doesn't want to hear from one of his friends right now. I think what he needs right now is his family first. So I'm like, I get it. And then my mom came back in to the car. She saw me crying. She's like, is everything okay? What's going on? And then I explained to her, and she was like, oh, I'm paraphrasing because my parents never swear in front of me, but she's like, oh shit. And I mean, I remember the moment you came back to Canada, I called you immediately. I think I sent the moment I got I came back home from the Bay, I sent you a long ass paragraph. I sent a couple voice notes, and it's still hard to think about.
Yeah, it's not easy, man. It never gets easy, right?
Never. And I remember sending you a longest paragraph. I didn't expect you to read it right away anyways. I was like, I have to get this off my chest. There's no way. Trey needs someone right now. I have to be there right now. And I remember the moment you came back to Canada, I called you immediately. The moment I knew you came back in, I called you immediately, and I think the next time we met up was at the funeral.
I think there was like another service before that or something.
I think so. Oh man, that was fuck. You know when they say it always gets easier with time, it's bullshit. It, in my opinion, it never gets easier to remember what happened, but the way I look at it, I try and avoid how they died because when I think about that, everything about me just drops.
Yeah.
I kind of tend to focus about, the memories that I had with that person. And I always
Yeah.
remember me being at your house. I literally remember coming over to your place, playing FIFA with Ethan and Jaden, just chilling, having a great time. And man, that shit threw me all the way off, bro. Oh my
Yeah.
fuck. But
There's more parts to the day that I wanted to. There's a couple other parts.
yeah,
So we at the hospital after we seen him, we had to stick around and wait for a bit because the police needed to ask us questions.
mm-hmm.
And so the preliminary report from the doctor was that he had drowned because he was like in water, basically, right?
Right.
I had been playing like roughhousing with Ethan in the water and been throwing him over my shoulder and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I thought that I had been responsible for this happening.
Fuck.
So when I like talked to the police officers, I was like so scared. I was like, holy shit, like I'm in Mexico. I had some part to play in this. Am I gonna go to Mexican jail for this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it works. I talked to them about it and like I told them like what happened. Like I didn't like try to omit anything. And they talked to my dad too, like just like questioning what happened, how everything happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously they let us go, but that was just like a horrible, horrible moment. And so we didn't find out officially what happened until later. But the facts are this. Ethan was born, this is something that we knew about, with a condition called tetralogy of Fallot. It's a heart condition where essentially you have there's a hole in your heart, I think in your right ventricle or something, where like blood like seeps in and out. It leads to a lot of different things. I know Ethan was not on the spectrum or anything, but he was missing part of a chromosome, so he was always like at least 2 or 3 years developmentally behind everyone.
Right.
And this like his heart thing, like it never really held him back when it comes to like sports and whatnot, but like things were not as easy as they could have been if he'd had a normal healthy heart.
Mm-hmm.
We found out was people born with tetralogy of Fallot, there's this 1 in 4 chance that they can have a heart attack and die prematurely. And they didn't say that to us because if we'd known, it would have changed how our lives would live.
Oh, right.
And I completely understand why, and I'm grateful that at least I didn't know. I don't know if my parents knew this, but this is how they said it to me.
I feel like they should have. I feel like
they
should have
like,
at least told their parents ahead of time.
Sorry, I'm not trying to diss the quality of Alberta doctors. I'm sure they said something,
right? Yeah.
But at the very least, in my situation, I didn't know, and the reason being that if you thought that there was like 1 in 4 chance that your child was going to die at any point, you would do anything to like basically like put your child in a bubble, ensure that their life was as like stress free and like and like as boring as possible, so nothing might possibly happen, right?
Right.
But it was because my parents knew he had this heart condition that we got to go, that he got to live such an amazing life. My family has traveled around the world. We've been to Europe so many times. My brother was like the biggest soccer fan ever, and he got to see like all his favorite teams play soccer, like in Europe, and like he lived a pretty amazing life considering he had 3 or 4 open heart surgeries over the course of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's crazy to see. He had 2 open heart surgeries before the time he was 3 years old.
Jesus,
and the fact that like he like even like lived through both of those is incredible. So there's this point you hit where you start like looking at it as like this gift. It was like you're lucky. You can think like, oh, he was like 16 is so young, he had such a longer life to live.
Mm-hmm.
Or the flip side is like, we're so lucky we got 16 years with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the right way to look at it, because there's no point like lamenting what happened and like being upset about the what ifs. Like, the facts are clear, and the only way you can be happy is to just be grateful that you had that time, instead of just upset you didn't have more.
That's facts.
Yeah. So like, obviously, like, I'm speaking from it more than 2 years past now. I have had a lot of time to process and grieve and move on from it, like, to an extent, right? Mm-hmm. And like you were saying earlier about like it never gets easier, and like I'd say that's like, yes, I agree and disagree. Easier, I just don't think is the right word. Like, you learn how to live with it. Like there's always pain there, and it's not like you forget about the person, but you also, people will always say like, oh, like I think about them every day, or like I never stop thinking about them. Like, to me, that's unhealthy, because if you're spending your entire time thinking about that person and not going and living your own life, you're like wasting your life. And then that's like, it's already tragic enough that one person died. It'd be so much worse to have one person die and another person waste their life because of that person died.
Yeah.
So like, obviously I think about him, and like I think about him fondly, and like whenever things remind me of him, I get a smile to my face. But like, I would never say that I think about him every day, because I'm at the point now where I have to go live my own life, because if I was in his position, I would want everybody to move on and to live the happiest lives they can.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no way somebody who loved you that much would want you to just waste your life away thinking about them. So,
no, if anything, they'd be mad at you, right?
Going ahead, living my own life, like doing my own stuff, is, to me, exactly what you would want to see. Mm-hmm. So, like, me doing the best that I can is the best thing I can do for him too.
That, you said it perfectly and beautifully, to be honest, because like, there's some people in the world who would never be able to properly get over the grief, and I don't hold that against them at all, because
you can't hold it against them.
Exactly, like losing someone that important in their life. Like, for you, that's your younger brother. That's literally a person that was only 3 years younger than you, 4 years younger.
Yeah, 3 years.
So it's hard. That's like imagining me losing my younger sister just out of the blue, and you would never expect it. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, how? And if you maintain such, a grip, or if that thing maintains such a grip over your life, and I don't blame anyone in that situation, don't get me wrong, but it's like, at some point, I don't want to say you have to move on, because no one can ever truly move on from an event such like that, but you have to be able to, I don't know how to say this properly, but like, you have to be able to internally accept the fact that they're gone, but yet they're always with you in that sense.
Yeah, well,
Because I don't know, like for me personally, they're never truly gone until their memory is gone. Like your
yeah,
memory of them is gone. Like, not to sound childish, but like that point was proven to be like perfectly by the movie Coco. I know this is like a side tangent, but like
no,
that's
no, like I love that saying, right? It's like you die twice. The first time when you die, the second time when the person speaks your name for the last time. Like I
mhm,
love that, you know. Like I wouldn't say I live my life by that, but like I always think about that as like, yeah, like what am I going to do that like keeps me alive, right? And then you got to think like, well, it's like Coco. It is your friends and family that keep you alive, right? Like
mhm.
that's life more so than
Yeah, like I remember when I was watching it, and I think it was before my grandma passed, and I never really thought about it, and like I never really I like it hit me, of course, but like it never really hit me, and then after she passed, I rewatched the movie. Just I was.
Disney movies hit different, bro. I promise. You
Oh
go
no no
watch
no no! Disney
you
and
watch
Pixar
you watch
movies.
you watch no like in I'm not even talking just because I lost somebody. Like damn, like they were sad before this shit happened, you know. Um I was gonna say something, no, I can't remember.
Take your time, bro. Take your time.
Let me see. I like his funeral was like really actually pretty nice.
Hmm.
There were so many people there,
Yeah,
and
I
that was
remember.
crazy to me because like he's 16. You can't even begin to imagine how many lives you've affected until you see that shit happen. You know,
Hmm.
like it's a Wonderful Life, that like Christmas movie where you like see like what it like be like if you weren't there, but like taking that and be like, what would like how, you don't know what people think about you or like how people feel about you until you're gone.
Yeah,
And then like St. Mary's Cathedral is filled with people, like 1,000 people that who were affected by it.
yeah, I
Like
remember that.
hundreds of kids from St. Mary's there. That was insane. They like let people off from school to go and like be like to go to the funeral.
Yeah, I remember. I remember me and Dammy when the day of the funeral came. I think it was after the funeral finished. And you had already left at that point. Me and Dammy
No,
went
no,
to
we went for food. Don't you remember? After the funeral, like
no
remember like
after
it was
no
like
no
half.
after the no no after the funeral we went to your house. Remember?
Didn't yeah okay well like we went together or something. Like I don't know. Like I just remember like after the funeral, there was like a group of us, and we were like, yeah, let's go together or something. Like let's
Oh, I think I remember. I think I
yeah,
remember
right?
that.
Like
Cause there was a place next door to the cathedral, right in front of it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly where we went. I remember like me and Dammy. It was like somewhere. It was like an intermission break or something. Me and Dammy went to Mary's because I was for me it was like the first time I went inside, the high school in years, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
like we just went around, and I think we saw Miss Erickson, and we were just talking. She's like, It's fucking sucks, bro." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, what else can you really do, right? I mean, all
I I remember I visited the high school around that time too. Like definitely like after he passed, and I remember like talking to the teachers and whatnot, and everybody like a lot of people knew him, and it was crazy. And I heard stories about like from remember Joannie? I heard like so many different stories from her about because she was still going to Mary's at the time
mhm.
about how people were at the time. Like people were crying in the hallways, and like
Shit,
Ethan was in theater, and like apparently like when the theater teacher found out, he like screamed in the middle of
Miss
class.
McCarthy,
And, yeah, Miss McCarthy.
damn,
She just like lost it in class, and like our classmates. And, like it's sad, but like also like in like this like weird way, it makes me happy just to know that like he had this effect on people's lives and made people's lives better, right?
It's a sad but a beautiful notion. It's like
It
it's a
is,
beautiful
right?
it's beautiful but in a twisted way, right? Where it's like
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's like almost sick saying it. Like I was happy so many people were sad because like
he had such a positive effect on people's
exactly because
lives.
he had such a he made so many people happy and
Hmm.
like, isn't that what you want? Like I don't know, like I'd rather die at 30 happy than at 50 miserable. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's that's facts. But yeah, I mean that I still remember when that happened. That was complete shock. And like I remember one time I had dropped you off at your house. I think we were out hanging out or something.
yeah,
Um, and I was driving back home, and then it hit me that it was like it's already been like 6 months since he passed, and it was like, and I had to park the car just like for 5 minutes. I thought about it, I was like, it's already been that long. Like time has already flown like that far to
time
even.
doesn't time doesn't stop moving. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like there are like I'd say there are moments where time drags on. Like overall, like life moves by so fucking quickly. Like, I can't believe it's been 2 years. I remember I went back to work like a month after he died.
Right.
I remember there was one shift I was working, and it didn't hit me until like way late in my shift, like towards the end, that it was the 3 month mark of his anniversary,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like hit me while at it serving a table, and I have to like kind of like excuse myself and let like cried in the bathroom for a couple minutes. It was just like I can't believe that it's already been 3 months,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just yeah, like time, like 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, man. Like
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, I mean, there's nothing else you can really say to something like that, right? I mean, to be honest, the same shit happened, with me, and it's like, okay, I keep on mentioning her, but like, I guess we should probably bring it up, right?
well, no, like I was actually about to say is like, but enough about me. Like I've talked a lot, so
No, no. I mean, honestly, talking about things is like it helps because I remember when my grandma actually. Yeah, no, I actually remember when my grandma passed. I think I called. I think you were one of the first people that I called because you knew
yep.
exactly, what
Oh
was
yeah,
going on.
I remember that happening.
And I think I was in my car and I was just I broke down. I was in I was a mess. Oh man. Like
I remember.
I rarely cry and like
I
I
just
was
remember
a
like
fucking mess.
I'm not trying to you look bad, but I remember you
No, no,
being
no. Go
angry.
ahead.
I remember you being angry. Like you
Oh,
were like not like angry at anyone in particular, just like angry at the world. Like you were
I
like
was pissed. Oh no, no, no.
it
You
was
were
like
completely.
yeah,
I was
you were
pissed.
like you were just angry that it happened. I remember that, and it's like, oh, this is not how I reacted to it. But it's also it's just like everyone reacts differently, right? So
Yeah, that exactly what I was going to next. Where it's like some people react, like everyone has a different reactions. Like some people have no reactions at all, but internally, like they're breaking down. But like some
oh
people,
no, and that's it's the worst. If you don't let yourself feel it or go through it, you're never gonna get better. So.
never. It's the worst. Like I was in my car, and I was pissed. I was hitting my steering wheel. I called you. I was breaking down. I was. Ah man, that was bad. Like I think I had to go buy a couple things for the like for home because when she passed, like we closed the restaurant for like weeks. I think for like a solid week we just closed.
Yeah.
And like, of course I'm gonna joke about it now, saying like, oh yeah, I finally get no work, right? Haha. But the reason why it
We'll
pissed
be
me
making
off.
dark jokes.
Ah, come on now. No, no, no. I would never. No, no. I would never joke about that shit. But like, um, I don't know. Like, I should probably give context. So my
Like
grandmother.
I was about to ask you, like, hey, like, why not tell the
Yeah,
story?
I was literally I was
Know,
about to get there. Don't tell me how to do my podcast.
well, maybe if you did it better, I wouldn't have to tell you to do it.
Oh, don't make me punch your throat out. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I
Um,
don't know.
to be honest, I feel like when it first happened, I really didn't want to tell anybody. Or yeah, honestly, yeah. I didn't want to tell anybody, but then I was like, certain people should know, right? And I think I told
Oh yeah.
you, I told Dammy, I told like a couple of my like my day ones type of things. I told them
Yeah.
first, and it was fuck. So
Well, like
context.
you're allowed to, like, like it is your business,
Mm-hmm.
so you're allowed to tell whoever you want, right? Like I put it on my social media just so like people could like pray for him, and also like I felt people should know, and I also wanted to make it very clear that I didn't want to be bothered. I
Yeah.
remember like my messages were very much like I don't want any, like, it's gonna be okay. So I guess like just like leave me alone. Just wanted to let people know. So like
No, no, that's
I get it, right?
completely fair. So for context sake, my grandmother, her nickname is Etete. That's just a family name. That's just we've always called her that. So she's my dad's mom, right? So my dad, there's three of my aunts and my uncle who had passed away. I think back in 2017. He passed.
So that's five children.
Five children, yeah. She was five. It was five kids in total. And my dad was the oldest.
Yeah.
And the first one was my uncle who had passed. So my dad's only brother, right? He had passed, I think, back in 2017, due to it was a seizure. So I didn't know this, but
really?
Well, I didn't know. Well, let me explain. So I didn't know that my uncle had he was diagnosed with, I think, epilepsy, and I genuinely didn't know that about him, right? And I remember what happened was like I still remember the day I woke up, right, and I just hear screaming, and I'm like, what the fuck? What's going on, right? And I go downstairs and I see my dad, my mom, and my aunt. My aunt was sleeping over at the time, right? This is like the oldest aunt, so like after my dad, it's like my first aunt. Her nickname is Lala. So my dad, then I'm gonna be nicknamed, like I'll drop their nicknames down. So
yeah, like drop some names so
so then people know.
We understand who you're talking about. Yeah.
So there's my dad, right? Then there's the second oldest, which her name is Lala. Then the third, which is Lati. Then it was Lati, Lati. So it was like my dad, then Lala, then Lati. Then it was my uncle. His name was Jonathan. But his
like
nickname,
Jonathan.
yeah, like Jonathan. That's like Jonathan is like the Ethiopian way of saying Jonathan, right?
Cool.
But everyone called him Mumwish, and
he was Mamush.
yeah, like that's the nickname Mumwish in Ethiopia. It means like that kid or like that boy, because by the time Jonathan was born, my dad was practically like I think he was more than 5 years older than him at that point. Like definitely. Like he practically raised him at that point.
Yeah.
So his nickname was Mumwish. For those of you who don't know, my older brother's nick. Yeah, exactly.
Also Mamush. Yeah, that's
yeah, exactly. So my older brother's nickname, his real name is Indel, but his nickname is Mumwish, and the reason why is because he's one of the first, like, he was one in terms of the Ethiopian community here in Calgary. He was one of the first born here. And so everyone knew him growing up. His nickname was Mumwish. Like, oh yeah, Mumwish. It's like a very affectionate term to call. And then last there is Mititi, who's like the youngest. So there's 5 altogether. And I remember it was my dad, my mom, and Lala, who were all in like the living room, and they were just screaming. Or my mom and my aunt were just screaming. And I was like, what the fuck, what happened? And my dad, I've never seen him cry. Like, rarely. Like, maybe two, 3 times max. And I'm like 20. So my mom and my aunt were screaming. But my dad, he was like, and I've only seen my dad cry like 2 or 3 times in my entire life, maximum. Now I'm like 20 at this point.
Yeah.
And I remember, and he wasn't crying. He was just like, his head was like this on the wall, and he was just banging the wall, just like, I should have done this, I should have done that, just nonstop. And it was like, and I was wondering, and I knew that at that point I had found out that he had passed, and I didn't know why, but until later on, and then I found out what had happened was my uncle was on medication in order to suppress the seizures and stuff. Yeah. And it wasn't like I don't know exactly how it worked, but it was just a way so then he wouldn't get them. But the thing was is that he wasn't allowed to drink while he was on said medication.
Like drink anything,
like alcohol. Okay. Yeah. And that night, or one night, he was out with his friends and they were out drinking. And I think he had a little bit too much to drink. And what happened was that he came home and he had a seizure at home, and
by
himself at night. And the next morning, he was already gone by that night. And then people found him the next morning.
That would be just. Oh, I can't even imagine like being the person to find them.
It wasn't like my parents didn't even know. I think my uncle had came over and he was crying and he delivered the news to my parents. And it was literally that same day they booked a flight to Ethiopia. My dad and my aunts had all booked a flight to Ethiopia. That literally the same day they found out.
To go see him, right?
Immediately, like to plan the funeral, everything.
Oh, sorry. They booked it after they found out.
Yeah, like the day they found out was the day they left.
I thought you were saying that they like had booked it and then found out.
No. Like they had found, like the day they found out that he had passed was the day that they booked the ticket and then left. Like they booked the ticket afterwards. I probably fucked up the explanation. My bad.
No, don't. It's all good. Shit.
And I remember my dad just kept on saying, it's my fault, because at that point, I've never met my grandfather on my dad's side. And my dad has been technically like, the oldest, like, the father figure to, everyone for literally as far as I can remember. Like,
he's like the man of the house to him. That's like losing a kid basically, right?
That's practically it. And he was like, and his goal was to bring everyone to Canada to live. So he already brought all my sisters, and he was planning on bringing my brother and my mom. Did I say my brother? I meant to say his brother.
I knew you're talking
about. And he just never was able to, and unfortunately he passed there. And so after they found out, they had booked the ticket the same day, and they just went. And so the funeral, everything was there. So I wasn't there personally to, I was calling my dad every day, just, checking in, how was it, are you okay? What's going on? And he's like, it's good to be back home, right? Because, he was born and raised in Ethiopia, but like the reason why he was home, it wasn't, for the best reason. Like it wasn't for a visit or anything.
Like, I don't know, you travel, you're supposed to be traveling for vacation, for pleasure, right? That could not be further from that.
Exactly, and he's going home, like, back to his family house, visiting, aunts and cousins that he hasn't seen for years at that point, right?
And none of it's even a little happy, right?
Exactly, and like...
I'm sorry, yeah.
And then, at this point, I think we've all made our peace with it, that was back in 2017, Jesus Christ. And... then
I think I remember that happening actually.
Did I tell you? I'm pretty sure I did.
You did, yeah. Like I feel like I remember you saying something about your dad leaving. So like
I did. Yeah, I definitely did. Yeah, because I remember you were asking us like, "Yo, you want to go out tonight?" I was like, normally I'd be able to, and then like my dad.
No possibility because.
Yeah, it was literally like I can't go out because I have to help out at the restaurant, right? Because at that point it's me, my brother, and my mom. We're the only ones that are working there. And it's like, no one else, like, we need to stay together at this time. And it was...
100%, yeah.
And then, I think, flash forward... Wait, sorry, I'm a little bit disjointed.
No, it's all good. When did your dad's mom, your grandma, when did she move to Canada?
So that's what I was about to say. So, like, the first time I remember meeting my grandma, I think it was... 2016. Yeah, she came in 2016 actually. Yeah. So
She
she came
came to live, or just as
no,
like
to visit. She was here for about a year. She was here for a year. And that was the first time that I had met her. Well, as far as I remember, of course I met her as a baby and stuff, but like, this is the first time I could actually remember. And of course,
first time you were cognitive and
exactly. And like, the thing that I regret the most in terms of with my grandmother, and the same thing with my uncle, was that I never, communicated to them that often, or not as much as I should have.
Yeah, I think that's probably the number one feeling people have is, oh, I wish I'd spent more time with them.
That's the worst part of it all, because I remember I still remember when I first got Facebook, my uncle was one of the first people to message me saying, "Hey, how are you doing?" and stuff like that. Just being really friendly, and I think
that's nice.
I think that was probably one of the few times I'll ever talk to him, and it's such a shitty thing that I did. Like, I just never. It's not like I was rude. I just never messaged him. And it's like,
you never messaged him back.
No. Of course I messaged him back. No. I'm not saying that. But it was like I never, had more communication with him, more dialogue, stuff like that. And then on top of that, of course, I had communication with my grandma, because like she'd call my parents every now and then my parents would be like, "Hey, your grandma's here. Say hi. How are you doing?" Stuff like that. The problem was, there was a language barrier between her and me, because she didn't she didn't speak English, and I can't really speak Amarinya that well. I can understand what she's saying, but I just can't speak it back properly. So it was just always disjointed kind of things, and like I always enjoyed her company, of course. Like, she's my grandma. She was so nice, so generous. And I just,
like what grandmas are supposed to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I just wish I was able to have more communication with her, because if I understood the language more, I would have been able to have like deeper conversations with her.
For but you, it would have been like you could have been like that much closer to her. Like, you could have like known her that much better, stuff like.
Mm-hmm. And so what I remember was she came for around 2016 to visit for a year, because this was like her first time on a plane ever. And so she came to Canada. She stayed here.
How old was she when she would have flown?
Here's the thing, I don't know. Here's the funniest shit was, my dad, when he had to do, okay, this is kind of dark, but like my dad, when he was doing the paperwork for my grandmother when she passed, he told me, he's like, yeah, she never told me how old she was. This is that was literally the first time he figured out how old my grandma was. And he's like,
oh really?
Yeah, he had no idea. I think he had like a general ballpark, but like she never told him.
Yeah,
like never once.
I think it's like one of the things you're not supposed to ask a woman, right? It's like her age and
like her age and stuff like that.
And stuff like that. Those are questions you don't ask, especially not your mother. So,
and so, funny enough, I make a joke about that with my parents. Like anytime they, it's their birthday, I'm like, "Hey, you're now this year old." God, God damn it! All right, let's see. How do I get this set up? I know it's going so goddamn well too. Okay. What the fuck? Yeah, this is staying in the podcast. I don't care. Let's see.
See, it's great because you dropped it twice.
All right, no trilogy this time. Yeah, no trilogy.
It's gonna fall again.
That will be fine.
It's gonna fall.
I mean, it lasted me an hour, so I think I'll be fine. I'll be good.
Oh gosh.
So what was I saying?
I was just curious because I want to like picture she would have been at least in her 70s. I'm trying to.
Oh no, I think she was around 73 when she passed. She was about 73. So she was like in her late 60s when she first came.
A woman in her late 60s going on a plane for the first time. I'm just like thinking that's really funny.
And like, I remember when she came here, like me, my dad and my aunts would have, some nights she'd be staying at our house, some nights she'd be staying at like one of my aunt's house, and like it'd be like a rotation thing where it's like where she'd be staying at. And we took her around to Banff, we took her to all sorts of places, like Edmonton I think we took her to, and it was fun.
Did you look at Edmonton and
Well,
She's back in
Edmonton is
Ethiopia.
fucking dead, but like
It's
still.
disgusting, and yeah.
Fuck Edmonton. Fuck Edmonton.
The homies hate Edmonton.
Sorry?
So me and all the homies hate Edmonton.
Oh, of course. Yeah, fuck Edmonton, bro. The only thing that's good there, okay, sidebar, but like the only thing that's good in Edmonton is West Edmonton Mall. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
and
literally
like,
the only reason why you would go.
even still, half of it is pretty trash, honestly.
Like,
There's like those weird paths you go down. You're like, what the fuck happened here? It's like all you got like all the luxury stuff on like one half of the mall, and the other half of the mall is like all these like boarded up windows. And you're just like, what the fuck? Like,
what the
there's
fuck? Like,
such a
like the
class
only
divide
reason,
even within this mall. Like,
bro, the only reason why you would go to West Ed is for the water park,
100%.
and that's it. The water park is fucking dope, though. I'll give Edmonton that. That water park is phenomenal.
I went with Caleb, and she like I don't think she'd ever gone before. It was the first time. It was like her anniversary in 2020.
Oh shit!
And like that shit was it was awesome. She's not a water slide person, so like getting her in any of those was a stretch. But,
And then she actually went on somehow.
Yeah, she still hates it. She says she'll never go back again, but okay, she'll go back.
When there's a will, there's a way. We'll find out.
It's fine.
But going back to what we were talking about, I think where was it? Oh yeah, so my grandma was here for about a year or so. I think originally it was like a 6-month visa, but then we had it extended.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, we've been trying to get her to come to Canada for years, literally years. Yeah. But like the visas were never approved for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why. But finally we were able to around 2016. She stayed here for about a year, and then she left around June of 2017. Or no, she left in I think around she left January of 2017, because I remember that because my uncle passed in March. So it was literally like 2 months after, I think. And then flash forward to about, I think it was about August. Yeah, about August, late August of 2020. My grandma came to Canada again, but it was a different reason why she came. It was not only because of visiting, because of course she came here to visit, but at the same time, she had a heart condition. I don't know the specifics about it. I never asked my dad about that. But she had some sort of heart condition, and she was like on a bunch of medication, and we never really trusted the doctors in Ethiopia, because they're good doctors, but like you would want top of the line. And my dad was like, okay, so then we can bring her here instead. And so we did that. And I still remember, and keep in mind, this is around COVID time too. So what happened was that she had to isolate for about 2 weeks when she came here.
On COVID, yeah.
So when she came here, she was isolating for 2 weeks, and then once she finally finished isolation, we had like a big get together. Not a big get together, but it was just like family only at our house. Because I always say our house is just because like my dad's the oldest, and I think is also the biggest house. But like, it's not even a flex. I'm just like
like weird time to flex, but
no. I think it's just because it's my dad's house, right? And he's he's the oldest. So everyone was like, okay, let's just go here.
Yeah, like that's how it is. During September, like things were a little open anyways. Like you could have gatherings, I think, like outdoor stuff or something.
Yeah. It was like right around that. It was a weird area of time.
Whatever time that was. I remember, you said that, and it's like, gatherings are happening, so that's chill. Also, it's family, right? What can you do?
And I remember like she was there, and she looked a lot more tired compared to how she was, the last time she came. Obviously, she's older, but at the same time, like,
and she was she sick back then? Do you know if she was sick in like 2016 or?
I have no idea. She seemed fine to me. I think she always had that heart condition for a while, but like it got worse here. Or it got worse like, leading up to when she came here. And we had a big get together at our house. When I say big get together, it's like me, my dad, like my family, and then my aunt's families all came over, and it was just a great time. And, we're all talking, we're all having a great time. I didn't realize that that would be the last time I would see her.
At this big gathering.
That was literally the last time I saw her.
So it was
Well, at least,
there's one get together.
literally just one, and that was the last time I saw her alive, for lack of a better
How long between?
so
Like how long between that and when she passed?
it was probably 2 weeks or so, I think.
And
I
was
think
she just like with like your aunts at the time?
she was at
like,
my So what happened was that she was staying at my aunt Letty's house.
Letty
And-
is the second oldest girl, right?
So it's my dad, then Lala, then Lati. So she's the third oldest.
But second oldest girl.
Second oldest girl. Yeah, then yes.
Okay,
Then
yeah.
yes.
No, I want to keep track of your family too.
Then what was I saying? So she was staying over at my aunt Lati's house at the time, and they had just finished saying prayer, and then they were just about to go to bed. And my aunt was like, okay, they were just having they were just talking, right, just before going to bed, and all of a sudden, she just passed out. Literally, just I think she was sitting down and she just passed out. And my aunt is like, and I still remember because this was the one time my sleep schedule actually bit me in the ass, because it was like 3:30 in the morning. And I was literally just chilling on my laptop, right? And, obviously my parents were like, yo, go to bed. I'm like, okay, whatever. But obviously you don't. And I remember it was like 3:34 in the morning. I hear like, and I sleep in the basement, so my parents are like in the top floor. And all of a sudden I hear just like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I go upstairs and I see them all changed and ready to go. Keep in mind, this is rare. Like, they are never awake at this time. Like, the only time that they'll be awake for this time is either for church or
in the morning.
Well, it's like there's some ceremonies, like Ethiopian Easter, for example. Like, you go to church at around like, I don't know what time you go to church. I think it's like 1 in the morning, 1, 2 in the morning, and then like the whole celebration goes until like 4.
I see.
And like, either that or they were watching like a movie or something and they were just going to bed, right? And so like they're all fully changed and they're rushing, and I'm like, is everything okay? What happened? They're like, yeah, Tete's in the hospital right now. I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, just stay downstairs, just go to bed, we'll talk about this tomorrow. I'm like,
it's just your parents getting
just my parents just
not Endel and
no, we had to stay home. And so what happened was that she had a heart attack. And so she was in a coma. And what happened was that she was in, I think it was Peter Lougheed, I think she was. And like, she was in a coma for like, I don't even know the specific times or whatever. Like, time just felt meaningless right at that point. And
it's gotta be different too. Like, I'm not trying to like take away from your story whenever I like talk about Ethan, right? Like, I'm not trying to be like that. But I was just like thinking.
No,
like,
you're just relating to the story.
I'm just like, it must be this whole different kind of difficult when like you don't know what's gonna happen, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're in a situation where it's like she's in a coma. Like, what happens now, right? Like, so that must be awful. Like, that must be.
And like, I'm a religious person, but like, I don't pray often, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, like, at that point, I was just praying like every night, just please. I was fucking begging at that point.
Yeah.
And my dad was there every day, every single day. Like, I barely, like, for that period of time that she was in a coma, I barely saw my dad. Barely. Like, the only times that I would be able to see him is when he would come home just to sleep, because you can't sleep at the hospital. So he'd just go home, sleep for, a couple hours before, visitation was open again, and then he'd go back.
Were you going and seeing her during this time too, or I don't know how that was because with COVID.
I'll get to that. So I remember I had to drop off my dad at Peter Lougheed, right? And we were having a conversation, And I think at that point my dad was just trying to hold it together for the whole family's sake, because at that point everyone is looking to him now. Because if my grandma's out of commission, right, then he's literally the oldest family member of our immediate family.
That's
And I was starting to talk to him about a story. A story that I went through with my grandma. I think this was back in 2016 when she came the first time. What had happened was, I think I had the stomach flu that day, or that, like, for a week. I think I remember I sent you a couple snaps about it. And I was dying. I was literally like,
weak immune system ass.
oh, I had bubble guts. I was throwing up. Oh man, it was the worst.
Hey,
And bubble guts means like you got the shits. Like you got the shits.
Yeah, no, like I pieced it together. I'm just upset that you felt the need to share that term with me.
I mean, you asked what it was, so I have to answer. And I remember it was my mom, my grandma, and me were in the car. We were right by Costco, right by Sunridge. And what happened was that my dad went inside. I think he had to go pick up some medicine or something. I think they were buying medicine for me, but I was so sick. I was laying down, and I think I was laying down on my grandma's lap, and I felt, puke coming. Luckily, we had a garbage bin there. I did not throw up on my grandma. Oh God.
I think I've heard this. I've heard this story before. I think you've shared this with me.
And my mom was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I just remember my grandma just like, I think she just went back to mother mode like instantly, like literally, like I'm back in the game. And she, like, she had her hand like on my head, like, just going like this and stuff. Like ISO means like you'll be okay, like, you're okay.
ISO?
ISO in English, which means like it's okay, my child, or stuff like that.
That's sweet. No, I like the sound of that.
And I did throw up. There was a garbage bin there, so I did throw up. That shit. Oh, that stomach flu kicked my ass. But I just remember her being practically going into mother mode instantly. And I was telling that story to my dad, and literally as I was telling him that, I started breaking down. I was like, I don't know if she's gonna be okay. Will she be all right? And my dad was trying to hold it together, and he was like, she'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And literally, when I dropped him, like, I was crying at that point when I was dropping him off. And I remember him, and he told me, he's like, yeah, maybe we have to make sure that the whole family sees, Etete before, like, before she comes out and stuff. And I think it was literally, I think the next day that she had passed. Like, just when my dad was planning, it's like, yeah, you should, see, because at that point I couldn't, because A, COVID regulations, and B, because of I had to be at work all the time, to cover everyone. My brother was doing skip the dishes at that point. My sister was at home, with the cousins, and my mom and dad were there almost every day.
Yeah.
And so my dad was like, yeah, you should be able to see your brother, or your sister, you should be able to see her, while she's here. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And the next day I get a text from my sister while I'm at work saying, yeah, she's gone, come back home. And so it was literally like 7, like the restaurant closed. It was like 6:30. Like, the restaurant closed at 10. We immediately just closed the restaurant and just went straight home. And I'm never gonna forget when I came home, everyone was crying, but the one that hit me the most was my dad, because he was just saying, I need my mom, I need my mom. Like, he was just, banging the wall, just, I need my mom, I need my mom, I need my mom. Like, he literally just reverted back to, a kid. And I found out what had happened by my sister. it's not like she was there. She was just told what was happened, and the doctors had told us that even if she were to have awoken, she would have had permanent brain damage because she was in a coma for so long. Um, and I like my dad would tell me every now and then like, oh, her foot moved or something like that. But I think similar to what you were saying too about it's just false hope. I don't want to say false hope, but like it's just anything to cling on to. And
I remember when at the hospital, when it was a while after my mom had gone, and eventually we all went through to see him, and he was covered under a sheet, and we were so awful. But I remember, like, I waited until after they'd walked away, and I just lifted the sheet because in my head I'm like, I need to see this, like, I can't believe it, like, I need to see it happen. And it's just an awful thing to look at, man.
Yeah. The worst part was I was never able to see her after.
You saw her, which is great, but you didn't say goodbye, right?
I never got the chance to.
That hurts so much.
And it was bad. Oh man, when I first found out, I think I was just in my room, just pissed.
Yeah.
I was sad, but that sadness just turned into anger immediately.
There's something so difficult to think about is the thought of like a grown man like crying for his mom, and like just like I'm like, I know your dad decently well, right? I'm just like picturing that, and that is so horrible.
And I still remember that I think I told you this, but she had passed in my dad's arms, like literally at that moment.
Yeah.
Oh boy, here comes the waterworks. But I mean, it's still hard to think about. And I'm never gonna forget that we had to make a eulogy for the funeral.
Yeah, no, that is
And
did you speak? I wasn't.
The thing is, I had the option of inviting friends to the funeral, but I chose not to. Not that I had anything against it, but like for one, I didn't want to see anyone look at me like that. Like when I was
that's totally your prerogative, right? Like in that situation, there's no right or wrong way to act or feel, really,
Like I just wanted to be with family, and B, I genuinely just didn't want to. It's not like I didn't want to see anybody, but like I just
you didn't want to see anyone. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, yeah.
But I still remember we had to make eulogies, and my dad was supposed to be a pallbearer, so my dad had to make a eulogy of his own. And I remember we also had to live stream the funeral too, because people back in Ethiopia were trying to watch it, right? Because born and raised in Ethiopia, all her family is in Ethiopia, and so she's buried here. And I still remember my dad. He couldn't even finish the eulogy. Like he literally broke down, I think, after 2 sentences. Like he couldn't. He genuinely could not.
Did you speak?
I did.
Do you remember what you said? Like, do you want to talk about that, or?
It's not like I don't want to. It's like I genuinely don't remember what I said. But it's hard to think about still. Like, and the worst part was not only my own sadness, right? And I think if anything, I was mad at myself that I never pushed myself to, do more, speak more, learn more, because there are years of experience that she has, and I should have asked, but I never did, and I still think about it now. And my dad was supposed to be a pallbearer for the casket, but he genuinely couldn't. He legitimately could not. So it had to be me and my brother carrying the casket. And the moment we lifted up, I was thinking of making a joke, but I don't think it's the right time. But like, caskets are surprisingly heavy. Then again, you're carrying a full person inside there, which is fucked up when you think about it.
The person is one thing, but honestly, like the weight of the casket itself, there were 6 people that lifted it for Ethan. It was me and like his 2 friends, and I just remember thinking, I really don't want to drop it. I really hope.
Have you seen the movie? Have you seen the movie Death at a Funeral?
I haven't, but I'm sure there's more than one together that's done it, and I remember thinking that. I was like, oh, I hope we don't drop it. I can't.
Or no, it wasn't Death at a Funeral. Sorry, it was a Kevin Hart comedy special. That's what it was. And Kevin Hart was talking about when his mom passed, and he had to be a pallbearer, and his dad, who was a crackhead at the time, like the metaphorical term, like he literally did crack.
He was a crackhead. Yeah.
He was making fun of Kevin Hart, and Kevin was like, "Yo, shut the fuck!" And he had sick and tired of it, so he dropped the casket, and that was literally playing through my head. I was like, I pray that's not me right now, and it was surprisingly heavy, and I'm like, why is it so? It's like, I know I shouldn't be joking about it, but like, humor, in my opinion, really helps me, cope.
I don't. The best coping mechanism.
Yeah, there's no other way around it, right?
Nope. I have an inability to be serious in situations anymore.
Yeah, at that point, I can never be serious. Like, this is probably the most serious I've been in years at this point. But I still remember when we got to the funeral, like, the burial area, like, we had to lift the casket, and my aunts and my dad are screaming, and my dad's like, he was planning on, not planning on, but like, he wanted to open the casket, see her one more time, but like, you can't.
No, they like, there's like a moment where you can, and then they like lock it, and then it's like you're not opening that again. So,
and I still remember when the moment you had to bring down the moment it started going down, like the casket, all shit broke loose. Like, everyone was breaking down. My aunts were on their knees. My mom was crying. I was literally holding my dad. Like,
do you remember when we did that with Ethan? Because I reacted the exact same way. It was like, once he started getting lowered, I remember that's when, like, that might have been like the worst I was that whole time.
Yeah.
And it's like something so final about watching that person you love getting lowered into the ground. It's like,
it's brutal. And I think it was only family that got to see Ethan getting low. No, everyone was there. No, sorry. And I tried my hardest not to cry, because when it was at your funeral, or not yours, but when Ethan had passed. But I couldn't stop. I genuinely could not stop. And Dammy legit had his hand on my shoulder, like, "Yo, you're good. Relax. Not relax, but like, you're okay. It's okay."
I'm sorry.
I automatically say relax, because that's what he always says.
I was thinking, like, Dammy's saying, "Yo, relax. Like, it's not that serious."
No, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
I know.
Shout out to Dammy, but like,
I know.
Oh man, but he was like, "Yo, it's okay. You're good. You're good. It's okay. It's okay." And
doing it like a good friend does, not like
exactly. And I was like, not, "Hey, yo, chill, bro. It ain't that deep."
It's not that deep.
But I still remember afterwards, it was hard, and the fact that, you know, the child has to console the parents when it's usually the other way around, it threw me off. And like, the funeral was beautiful, albeit there wasn't that many people there just because, you know, COVID. So not a whole lot of people were able to actually like
I mean, they're
come.
physically, but
Like at the burial ground, there were like a ton of people there. But
and think of all the people that were live streaming from Ethiopia too. Like there were
yeah,
a
yeah.
ton of people, right? So
And it was hard. It was hard, and I'm not going to like, if I'm going to be completely honest, the reason why, or partly the reason why I started the podcast itself, was in honor of my grandma, because I'd always had an idea of, you know, doing something. You know, I thought about doing music review. I thought about doing a basketball page. And I just never was able to stick to something, and I just never, it was always an idea. And then I thought, oh, why don't I do a podcast? But then, you know, I never did. And then, you know, my grandma passed, I think it was September 19th. Yeah, it was September 19th was when she passed. And so I still remember when that happened. At that point, I was like, nah, fuck it. I gotta get this done. So I just, October 6th, like probably what is that, like a week or so later, I put out the first episode of the podcast. I was like, nah.
it was like 2 days, like 2 weeks.
Because at that point, I was like, I want to be able to do stuff that I'm able to do now and not hold these regrets like I hold with my grandma. I don't want that ever again. And so that's almost a year later, and here we are. It's, I don't know. I feel like my dad has, I don't want to say accepted it. Oh, he probably has accepted it at this point. But like, every time he talks about her, he just gets all, not misty eyed, but like, you know, reminiscent of the good old days, pretty much. And now it just,
if your dad's reminiscing about the good old days, he's in a, I would say he's in a pretty good spot of like acceptance, I guess. It's more than acceptance.
mm-hmm.
It's like,
the worst part about it is that I never got to see him go through all stages in public, because I know how he is, so I know damn well he was, you know, putting in here for the sake of the family.
Internalizing, bro. That's the
Exactly.
old school way of doing things. Like it's
like it was. And yeah, my dad is traditional in that sense, because, you know, Ethiopia was, you know, more so of a traditional country, you know, in the 60s and 70s when he was growing up, so he was kind of raised on that type of thing.
Like, it's the idea of men having emotions is still like a concept that society is not warm to. Like, think of all the times when your friend's upset and you're like, hey, you're a bitch. Like, like people are so we're definitely not at that point yet. And so I can imagine your dad coming from like a whole generation before this is like, yeah, like, I'm a man, I must deal with this internally and not have help from other people.
Yeah, that's
it's
literally
hard.
what it is.
My dad was the same way. He did not talk about it. He just threw himself into work, and it's not healthy. I feel so bad for your dad.
At this point, he can talk about my mom or my grandma in like a happy sense, but like every time he does, like you can tell that he's like you can see it in his eyes where it's like he's happy, but like
for all that time he kept it inside. Like, I feel for him. Like, I really do. Like, it's,
and that's why every now and then, like, I check on him. I'm like, yo, how is everything? Are you good? You know, how are you? Stuff like that, because like I know what it's like to suffer. You know, like battling your own internal demons. Everyone has. And so not only is my dad, you know, still trying to not recover, but like, you know, first it was his brother, now it's his mom, and now he's like, well, shit, now I'm like, it's just me now, me and, you know, my sisters, and that's it. And so I'm still trying to come to grips with it. I think I've accepted it at this point, but like, it's still weird to think about. Like, I was literally, like, for example, I was working, right? It was November. And no, it was December. Yeah, it was December. And I'm just, working in the kitchen and stuff. And out of nowhere, I just stopped. And I was like, because a memory of her came up. And then I started thinking about her. And it was like, it's already been almost 3 months since she's passed. And I'm like, it's. But one thing I will say is that Ethiopian culture around death is really cool, to where the way it works is like they celebrate the life of someone who had passed a week after they passed, then a month after they had passed, and then 3 months after they had passed, and then I think 6 months, then a year, and then I think 5 years, and then I think the last time that they will celebrate is like 7 years after they had passed.
Oh wow.
And I just think that's it's beautiful, and we're already.
No, it's great. Yeah, like I personally, I love the thought of that. Like that is so cool.
The thing is, I didn't even realize it now until like we started talking about it. But bro, it's already fucking almost August. Like,
Yeah,
it's almost been a year at this point. I'm like, so many things have fucking changed. So many things have happened in that time span, and I'm like, it's already been that long, and it felt like this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, like, I feel like there's no real way that we can talk about this without, being not negative, but like, more so in a serious point of view, I do apologize if this was a more melancholy episode. Normally I'm more happy and easygoing, a lot more than this. But I don't know. I literally, when I started the podcast, this is probably one of the first episodes that came to mind because I wanted to talk about her.
I think I remember you talking to me about doing this like last season. So
I did.
You've been just dating so for a while.
I'm never gonna forget. Like, I think it was a month after my grandma had passed. I think you had come by to the restaurant. It was a slow day that day, and I started talking about it, and I almost started breaking down. I was crying. You were crying, and I hate fucking crying. It was hard, and then a customer came in, which really that was ass.
I was like, "Oh, dude, nah, we're not crying. You're crying. Shut up."
I'm like, "Yo, are those tears, bro? Yo, nah, you gotta get your shit together, bro." But yeah, I mean, it was hard, but I don't know, man.
If it's okay, I want to throw like a happy thing in there, just so we have like something a little.
Go for it. Please.
I had an idea a little while ago. Actually, I guess it would have been around Ethan's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
He turned 16 in 2019. So
you would have been like
this
17 now.
Sorry?
He would have been 17 now, right?
Well, no, he was 16.
Oh, it's been 2 years. Oh, fuck.
So he would have turned 18 this year. So what I wanted to do, and COVID prevented me at the time, but I wanted to get his friends together and go.
I remember you were telling me something about this.
Go out and celebrate, because I know what I would have done if Ethan turned 18, as I would have taken him to bars and stuff, and
bar hopping,
and made sure he was safe. Exactly. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with Ethan's friends, and I actually want to do that because now things are open. I can actually do that. So yeah, I need to the idea is I want to do something like that because to keep his memory alive, and I'm sure his friends would be happy to do it. So.
Oh, I'm sure his friends would be more than down to do that, but it's hard to think about, At this point, I think we've both kind of not moved on, but accepted the fact that, they're gone, but they're never truly gone. And this goes to anyone who's experiencing this type of loss, and it sounds hollow, but they're never gone because their memories are with you. And as long as you can cherish those memories and, the things that you've shared between each other and, the life that you shared with each other, whether it be, a friend, a lover, a family member, hell, even a former co-worker or something. um, as long as you can cherish the memories between those two, or between you two, they're never gone. They'll always be here, and they'll always be here. And ultimately, I think that's what matters most in the end, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know how else we can. I don't know what else we can say. I think we kind of covered. Okay, I feel like I should let people know this now. Um, I don't want to have Trey on, not specifically because I just want to talk about myself. It's like this is the reason why I have you on. It's like you're the person I know that can relate with something that's going on like this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I mean, you were probably the first person that I know that could relate to something like this and would understand and be like, yeah, I mean, so that's literally all. It's literally just talking to each other,
Yeah.
just
Well, like
venting.
no, like I like honestly, like you're one of my best friends. Like if you had asked somebody else, I would have been mad, but I would have like thought that'd be weird. It's like, why are you talking to somebody else? Like I don't think there's anybody you're close to who would understand it as much as I would, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, like I was very happy to do this. I always, I like talking about it because it does keep his memory alive, and also I feel good being able to talk about it without like breaking down or anything. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's literally because I found that when I was talking to you about it, when you came by to the restaurant, that helped big time. When I talked to Dammy, it helped. Like just I rarely vent about personal things, so I don't know. It felt good. It,
hmm
that's literally all it was. It just felt good to let out, and I was like, okay, I think I'm at a point now where I feel comfortable enough to put it out in public. Um, the one thing I will say though is that I will never put her in my bio as in rest in peace to this person, because Lord knows I'm never getting her into Twitter beef. That is the one thing I will never do under no circumstances. Because
Getting her,
Lord knows you get into
getting
an
her,
argument and they're like,
getting,
yeah, I bet your
like
grandma's enjoying hell, right? I'm like, yo, fuck you. Like, how are you supposed to come back from that?
this is what, bro. You keep telling me to get on Twitter, and then like you say shit like that, and it's like this is why I'm not on Twitter. I can't. Why? Like,
Yeah.
that's some that's a whole other level of toxicity.
It's so bad. It's bad, but Twitter's fun as hell at the same time. I ain't gonna cap. But honestly, I think we covered everything that I want us to talk about. Do you have anything else that you want to say, man?
um, I think it's just whenever people go through loss, like I'm thinking about this, like almost like primarily because of your dad,
Mm-hmm.
is like when people go through these situations, um, there's no right or wrong way to handle it or to like experience it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that turning to people for help will be the best thing you could ever do, because trying to deal with it on your own is so like harmful.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this, like when you think about like losing a grandmother or losing a brother or whatnot, if you think like you're the only person that mattered to that person, and so you're the only person to deal with it, like you got to think about how many other people that person mattered to,
Mm-hmm.
and that like don't keep it to yourself. Like everyone's going to be going through the same thing, so the best thing you can do is be open with people and talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, shit, that makes sense to me, to be honest. And
Yeah.
I mean, you said it perfectly. But before I go, I want to say, love you, man. You're like a brother to me, man. You can talk to me whenever about anything. I'm here for you.
Same here, man. Same here.
But I think yeah, that's it. Thank y'all for making. Okay, this sounds really bad to promote this shit now, but but thank y'all for making it to the end of the episode. If you want to show love to the podcast, you can follow me both on Twitter, or you can follow me on both Instagram at Most Wanted Podcast and Twitter at Most Wanted Pod to stay up to date on guest features, upload days, and more. I want to shout out those who are listening in on Google Podcasts, Breaker, Overcast, Radio Public, Pocket Cast. I think I said that already, and Anchor. If you're listening in on Apple Podcasts, you can make sure to give it a 5-star review and rating. You can also listen to it on Spotify as well as on YouTube through the BrarHive channel, where not only can you find my podcast, but plenty of other, top-notch material. Until next time, we're out. Love you guys. Stay safe. Season 2, we here. Bye.